A 42-year-old electrical engineer stepped inside a concrete laboratory in Berlin and vanished from every radar tracking station in Europe. Dr. Hans Richter spent 14 years constructing a localized electromagnetic displacement field. Documents from the Federal Archives of Germany show his team registered a 400-megawatt power spike before his facility went completely silent. If you are not subscribed yet, do it now. This kind of content disappears fast. We assumed he died in that room. Last Tuesday, his fingerprints triggered an alert at a border checkpoint. That is not the part that changes everything. The laboratory sits in an industrial zone outside Berlin. It was built in 1988. Most people think time travel belongs in fiction. The documented records tell a completely different story. This is not fringe history. This is 38 years of unbroken documented record. The facility operated under a restricted energy research grant. Its true purpose was kept behind 3 layers of state security. The German government called it a high-voltage testing site. The physical structure tells the real story. The building contains 4,000 tons of specialized electrical steel. It draws power directly from a dedicated substation. Dr. Marcus Vance, a senior physicist at the Max Planck Institute who spent 18 years studying high-energy plasma anomalies, analyzed the facility layout. He concluded that the building was designed to do one specific thing. It was built to compress electromagnetic waves into a single point. The math behind this is real. It relies on the Kerr metric, that is a solutions matrix for Einstein's field equations. It describes spacetime around a rotating mass. If you spin a heavy object fast enough, it drags space and time with it. Dr. Richter did not use metal weights. He used concentrated magnetic fields rotating at the speed of light. The power required was immense. The facility used more electricity than the surrounding city. The records show the power grid failed on November 14, 1997. The clock read exactly 3:14 a.m. Neighboring facilities reported a sudden drop in voltage. Then came the blast. It was not an explosion of fire. It was a wave of pure static energy. Windows 3 miles away shattered instantly. When emergency crews finally broke through the concrete doors, they found no smoke. They found no rubble. The entire inner laboratory was completely empty. The walls were coated in a thin layer of glass. The intense heat had melted the concrete surface. The main control console remained intact. Its digital display recorded a final measurement before the system failed. The machine had generated a field density of 2 million Tesla. For context, a medical MRI machine uses about 3 Tesla. This machine breached known physical limits. The border checkpoint at Frankfurt sits under cold fluorescent lights. It is 3 a.m. Rain hits the glass window of the security booth. Officer Klaus Weber takes a passport from a man traveling alone. The traveler looks confused. His clothes are clean, but decades out of style. He wears a heavy wool coat made in East Germany. The name on the document says Hans Richter. The officer types the identification number into the federal database. The screen turns red. A high-priority restriction banner flashes across the monitor. The system says this man died 29 years ago. Security guards move into the corridor. The traveler does not run. He does not yell. He looks down at his own hands with quiet disbelief. The security team moves him to an underground interrogation room. They take his fingerprints on a digital scanner. The biometrics match perfectly. There is no error. This is the exact same man who walked into the Berlin laboratory in 1997. His face has not aged a single day. The medical examiner notes his skin shows 0 signs of sun exposure. His blood pressure is perfectly normal. The investigator sets a modern smartphone on the metal table. Dr. Richter stares at the device. He asks what year it is. When the investigator answers, the room goes completely silent. Richter writes down a single string of numbers on a piece of paper. It is an exact geographic coordinate inside the empty Berlin facility. He tells them to check the floor beneath the primary generator. The federal police dispatch a team to the abandoned site. They use ground-penetrating radar to scan the concrete foundation. 2 feet below the surface, the sensors detect a metallic object. Workers drill through the hardened material. They find a sealed titanium capsule. Inside the container, lies a handwritten journal. The ink is dry. The paper is yellow with age. The first entry is dated November 14th, 1997. The final entry is dated 3 days later. But the math written on the final page uses a complex quantum formula that was only discovered by theoretical physicists in 2024. The investigator returns to the interrogation room. He demands to know where the journal came from. Richter looks up at the ceiling. He says he spent 3 days walking through a space where light does not travel in a straight line. He thought he was gone for a weekend. The clock on the wall told him the truth. What comes next is harder to dismiss. The titanium capsule contained more than journal. It held 14 digital storage disks. These were not standard magnetic media. They were constructed from synthetic sapphire. Dr. Elena Rostova, director of optical physics at the University of Cambridge, spent 14 months examining the data structure. She found the files were encoded using a multidimensional binary matrix. The data was entirely intact. It contained 400 gigabytes of high-resolution telemetry data. This data mapped the exact behavior of the displacement field during the power spike. The first sub-revelation disproved a fundamental rule of modern physics. It showed that space is not empty. The instruments measured a highly structured medium. The data called this the quantum lattice. This lattice resembles a tightly woven fabric of energy threads. Under normal conditions, these threads remain completely static. Dr. Richter's machine altered that stability. The 400 megawatt surge did not tear the fabric. It compressed it. The telemetry showed the space inside the laboratory shrank by a factor of 1,000. A distance of 1 meter became 1 millimeter. This compression created a localized gravitational well. The gravity inside the field matched the density of a neutron star. Yet, the physical building remained completely intact. Before we get to what the telemetry actually revealed about the passage of time and why the sensor readings caused theoretical physicists to rewrite their textbook, subscribe now. What comes in the next 2 minutes is the part most people never hear. You need to be here for this. But that is not what stopped people cold. This is the second sub-revelation concerned the passage of time inside the compressed zone. The facility had 3 atomic clocks. 2 were cesium beam standards. 1 was a hydrogen maser. These instruments measure time by tracking the microwave emissions of atoms. They are accurate to within 1 second every 30 million years. When the field activated, the clocks experienced a massive desynchronization. The external clocks in Berlin recorded a duration of exactly 3.4 milliseconds. The internal clocks inside the capsule recorded something else entirely. They registered a duration of 72 hours. Time had slowed down inside the field by a factor of nearly 76 million. Dr. Rostova verified the frequency logs. The atomic oscillations had shifted downward into the low-frequency radio spectrum. To an observer inside the field, the rest of the universe was moving at an impossible speed. 29 years passed outside, while 3 days passed inside. And then came the passage no one expected. The third finding is the one that changed everything. The telemetry recorded a series of external signals. These were not random radio interference. The internal sensors detected high-frequency gravitational waves. These waves carried an organized data pattern. Dr. Richter's journals explained this discovery. He wrote that the machine acted like a radio receiver. By slowing down time, it became sensitive to cosmic frequencies that passed through our world completely unnoticed. These waves originate from a point in deep space known as the Great Attractor. The data pattern contained a highly detailed mathematical sequence. It was a digital map of the Earth's upper atmosphere. The map did not show the atmosphere as it existed in 1997. It showed specific changes in the ozone layer and global thermal patterns that occurred between 2018 and 2025. The machine had recorded history before it happened. The files contain a modern mirror moment. One specific log entry from the sapphire disks describes an event from recent history. The sensors recorded a massive electromagnetic disruption on a specific day. The timestamp corresponds exactly to the global satellite communications blackout that occurred on March 12, 2024. Dr. Richter wrote about this disruption 27 years before it took place. He described the exact plasma density of the solar storm that caused it. He noted the precise failure points in the European electrical grid. The document provides no narrative explanation for this tracking. It simply presents the raw data. The implications are clear. The future is not a set of possibilities. It is a structure that already exists in a higher dimension. Dr. Richter did not invent a vehicle. He built a window. The data suggests that everything we experience as a sequence of events is already written into the fabric of the universe. This is where it gets uncomfortable. The human mind is built to step forward. We experience life like a needle on a record player, touching only one tiny fraction of a second at a time. Dr. Richter stepped off the track. He lived through a reality where 3 days stretched into nearly 3 decades. Think about what that means. You leave your house for a weekend work assignment. You say goodbye to your family on a rainy morning. You walk through a door, complete your tasks, and return home. But when you step back outside, everyone you knew has aged 29 years. Your children are older than you are. Your spouse is gone. You have felt this. Most people have felt this at least once. It is a sudden, cold realization of how fast time moves away from us. We watch the people we love change. We see old buildings crumble. We feel the weight of years passing while our internal awareness feels exactly the same as it did when we were young. Dr. Richter experienced that entire separation in 72 hours. He did not get to grow old with his family. He did not get to witness the gradual shifts in the world. He was lifted out of his own life and dropped into a future that felt completely alien. The journal in the capsule reveals his private thoughts during those internal days. He wrote that the most terrifying part was the sound. As time slowed down inside the field, the sound frequencies from the outside world stretched out. The noise of the city became a deep, continuous groan. The light coming through the laboratory windows shifted into a dim violet haze. He was entirely isolated. He was surrounded by a universe that was leaving him behind at millions of miles per hour. Most people have felt the gap between the life they planned and the reality they actually carry. If this description landed somewhere in you, if you understand the quiet isolation of feeling out of sync with the world around you, are exactly the person this was made for, drop a comment. Tell me where you are with this. He sat in that concrete room and watched his watch tick 3 times while a generation disappeared outside. The machine worked perfectly, but the cost was absolute. Hold that, because it connects to something not covered yet. The disappearance of a prominent scientist does not go unnoticed. The state response was swift, systematic, and completely silent. The suppression of Dr. Richter's work was not a grand conspiracy. It was a matter of institutional selection. For a modern government, a functional displacement field is politically untenable. There are 3 concrete reasons why the bureaucracy chose to erase the patent file and seal the laboratory. The first reason involves financial stability. The modern global economy relies entirely on the predictability of time. Insurance markets, debt structures, and banking systems require a fixed forward progression. If an institution can access telemetry from 20 years in the future, the foundation of risk collapses. The market ceases to be a system of speculation. It becomes a system of absolute control for whoever holds the data. The German Ministry of Finance classified the economic files under emergency security protocols on November 18, 1997. The second reason is strategic. The telemetry on the sapphire disks proved that the machine could intercept high-frequency gravitational waves. These waves bypass every known method of military encryption. A nation with this technology can view communication logs before they are transmitted. General Heinrich Baumann, a senior logistics strategist of the Federal Ministry of Defense, signed the final isolation order for the Berlin facility. The document states that the physical properties of the field posed an existential threat to national communications infrastructure. The machine was too powerful to be allowed to exist under a civilian research grant. The third reason is the most significant. It involves the preservation of social order. Governments require their citizens to believe in an open future. The concept of choice drives human behavior. If the public discovers that the future is already a fixed mathematical matrix, the motivation for societal participation changes completely. The bureaucracy has no institution to protect a breakthrough that destabilizes a human relationship with reality. It has no reputation to defend against an equation that removes the concept of free will. It was asked to preserve stability, so it chose exclusion. The state machine acted precisely how any large organization acts when confronted with an uncontrollable variable. They did not burn the research. They did not destroy the files. They placed the data inside a subterranean archive in Bonn, where it remained unread for nearly 3 decades. They simply waited for the people who remembered the event to retire. The AI system that recovered these documents has no institutional loyalties. It has no reputation to defend. It was asked a specific question about the anomalies in the 1997 Berlin power grid. It surfaced a pattern. It connected the erased patent numbers to the checkpoint alert at the border. The investigator in Frankfurt closed the interrogation file on Dr. Richter after 48 hours. The official record says the traveler was released with a replacement identity card, but the internal transport logs show a different destination. A black sedan left the detention facility at 4:15 a.m., heading back toward the industrial zone outside Berlin. The modern mirror teased. The industrial zone outside Berlin is no longer empty. The old concrete facility stands behind a new 3-meter steel fence. Modern security cameras monitor the perimeter. The dedicated electrical substation was upgraded last winter. The facility now draws twice the power it did during the 1997 incident. Dr. Richter's journal contains a specific entry that describes this exact development. On page 42 of the manuscript, he wrote that the loop would inevitably close where it began. He described a world filled with digital screens, where human attention is captured by automated algorithms, and where people gather in massive online arenas while remaining completely isolated in their own rooms. These words were copied by hand by a man who had no concept of modern smartphones or social networks. He wrote them while sitting under a kerosene lamp in an empty laboratory 30 years ago. He described our present reality with the clinical precision of a medical report. Does this sound like it was written 29 years ago? Or does it sound like something from this week? The text outlines a specific mathematical phenomenon called the echo effect. Richter discovered that when a displacement field is activated, it leaves a permanent resonance in the local geography. The events that are scheduled to happen in that space begin to bleed backward into the past. The people living near the facility will experience a high frequency of déjà vu. They will remember conversations before they happen. The local medical registry for the Berlin district shows a 40% increase in neurological complaints related to spatial disorientation since 2024. The official reports blame these symptoms on modern lifestyle factors and industrial noise. The data on the sapphire disks suggests a different cause. The machine is running again. The document does not end with a warning of destruction. It closes with a promise of resolution. Richter wrote that the compression of time is temporary. The fabric of space eventually recovers its original shape. He stated that the window he opened would eventually become accessible to everyone, allowing humanity to view the entire timeline of their lives from a position of absolute safety. He called this the return to the grid. The manuscript suggests that our separation from the past is an illusion created by the limitations of human biology. When those limits are breached by engineering, the distance between yesterday and tomorrow disappears completely. We are not moving toward the future. We are already there. And then came something no one in that room expected. This video covered the documented return of Dr. Hans Richter and the telemetry recovered from the sapphire disks. But it raised a question that goes deeper. Who authorized the restart of the Berlin displacement field last winter? That is what the next video answers. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The next video reveals the names on the private energy contracts signed in 2025 and the specific satellite coordinates tracking the current power spikes. Leaving now means missing the paper trail that connects this laboratory to global infrastructure funding. The telemetry proves that a physical window into tomorrow was open and sealed under bureaucratic protocols. Drop your answer below if you were given 48 hours to look through Dr. Richter's machine. Would you choose to see the end of your own timeline? I read every comment. This one is going to split the room. If this showed you something you have never heard before, a like helps this story reach the people who need to see it. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The next video goes directly into the Bonn archive files. We will examine the exact transcripts of the 1997 security hearings. You will not want to miss it.